right, we're back on the latest episode of the Athlete Connection with a very special guest with us, Mr. Josh Mitchell. Um, I obviously am definitely interested in hearing your story. I know you are have a unique perspective that I think you have the opportunity to share with others, and kind of hopefully whoever's listening, maybe it's a younger individual in their shoes, they can kind of take some nuggets from our conversation and apply that to their daily lives. So real quick, Josh Mitchell, I'm looking up your bio. Really cool story. University of Nebraska, honorable mention, team captain, made it to the NFL. So welcome to the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem, man. So real quick, obviously I introduced you, but tell everyone a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what sport you play, those pleasantries.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Like you said, my name is Josh Mitchell, born and raised not born, but raised in Corona, California. So I'm an IE baby. I like to tell everybody I'm an IE baby. IE to the death of me. But I went to high school at Roosevelt over in Eastvale, played my high school football there for 4 years. I was part of the first 4-year graduating class there. After that, I got an opportunity to go play college football at the University of Nebraska. Had a redshirt year, so I ended up playing 4.5 years up there. After that opportunity, I was undrafted, got a chance to go play in the NFL at the Indianapolis Colts, which was a very dope opportunity for me. I ended up tearing up a knee out there. After that journey, I ended up in Canada playing for the Toronto Argonauts, which was probably one of my most favorite times of my life. Just getting to experience that league in a whole different country that is still part of North America that you never really think about. Went up there and played in Canada for 2 years, tore up another knee, decided to hang that up. And then I came back down to SoCal, moved over to Hoopa Valley, and been out here with the wife, raising a family and training athletes locally. I've always wanted to give back to my community. So when I was younger, I thought that would be through, making it to the NFL, making all this money and coming back down here and providing for our community and football program at Roosevelt. But that transitioned into me coaching. I now coach varsity football at Roosevelt, coach the DBs, and training the community. I work with athletes all the way from the age of 7 to the professional. So it's cool. The journey has been amazing.
That's dope. And I'm glad we got to connect because, like, obviously you have your different path, I have my different path, but really there's a parallel though, because I'm doing the same thing, just obviously different sport. So that's dope. So talk a little bit about your high school experience, right? Like, obviously you were the first graduating class there, new program. Like, what was that like, and how did you sort of transition or make that transition into a scholarship,
So originally I didn't even know where I was going to go to high school. The big high school around here is Centennial. So everybody knows about Centennial. If you're out in the Corona and you want to play football, you go to Centennial. You got Norco, Corona, Norco. That's our rival. So I was never going to go to Norco. And then Santiago was also an option for me as well. But my dad one day was like, "Hey, they're building this new high school down on the other side of Norco." And I'm like, "Norco?" He's like, "Oh no, it's still Corona. Norco's its own little pocket." And he's like, "Let's go check it out because you say you don't really want to go." And at that time, Roosevelt was the only high school that had a turf field. That was like innovative at the time. Not that AstroTurf, like the new turf that we're on now. So we went down there. I checked out the school. Just like I liked the way the campus looked. They were about halfway finished with the turf at the time. So they had about 50 yards in, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I want to play here." Like, I don't know who's going to go here. We're going to get to play against Centennial, get to play against Norco, Corona High School, Santiago. I'm going to get to play against all my buddies I grew up with. And if you know anything about me, it's like, I don't know, especially at that age, I think I'm better than anybody, right? So I'm like, instead of playing with my friends, I'd rather go play against my friends. So it was cool getting that opportunity to go to a brand new school. We didn't have a culture, a tradition, upperclassmen, nothing. It was just everybody who got to start with a clean slate and just really get to show who you are and what you're about. So fortunately, we had some balls in our team. My senior year, we had guys that went to Arizona. We had guys that went to Colorado. I went to Nebraska, Nevada, Colorado State, Texas Tech, all types of school. We had a very solid team. And like I said, just not having a culture or tradition when we first got there, and just seeing by the time we got to our senior year what that cultivated and how we made a name for ourselves was really cool. And getting the opportunity to get recruited by the Power Five and other schools was something that I can't say I dreamed of at the time as a kid, but when I got into high school and I started seeing guys I grew up playing with or guys that I played against getting offers and scholarships, I was like, "Oh, I deserve to be in there." So I just hyper-focused myself and made a name and an opportunity for myself.
That's dope. That's a great story. I mean, So how did you do that? You know what I mean? Because like most people that are going to be listening, they don't even know what that means to be recruited or even how to get recruited. So like, how did you go about doing that, especially in a brand new program with nobody that kind of went before you?
Yeah, so for me, fortunately, my father is well connected in the college football realm. He played college football, and like I said, the Big Eight it's a big conference. So no matter who like what school you go to, you're going to play against the top dog. So like I always knew every year if we're going to play Centennial, I had to ball out. I didn't care if the score was going. I didn't really care if the score was going to be at the end of the day. I always wanted to win, but it's a team sport. So if only four of us believe we can win, then the opportunity of us winning is very slim. But at I always knew, well, those are the games I gotta get mine, right? So I would always circle the big games, the Centennials, the Norcos, any out of conference games that we had that were really big games. Those are the ones I always knew. Like these are going to be the scouts that are watching. These are guys that are getting recruited other places. So at the time, Centennial had a receiver named Ricky Marvray, and he was committed to UCLA. They had Vontez Burfict, who ended up he was committed to USC at the time, went to Arizona State. Will Sutton, two-time Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year, was over at Centennial. They had a squad. So my junior year, I had one of my better games, one of my better games in my high school career, and it kind of started putting me on the map a little bit. And I started getting mail from schools, started getting interested in me, started inviting me to camps in the summer. And going into my senior year, that summer was the first time I actually went to like football camps. Before then, I would maybe go to a Nike Spark Combine, but it discouraged me because I've never been a big dude. And whenever I would put my stats in and then I would go through the height and weight part, my Spark Combine score would drop dramatically from my height and my weight. So I was never a fan of them. So going into my senior year, after having a solid junior year, I started going to the UCLA camps, some of the local camps, and just being able to showcase my talent against that competition that was quote unquote, more talented or higher rating stars than I was. And from that, I performed well. I performed well. There's no other way to say it without, I don't know, I'm trying to say it without sounding like being cocky. I'm total cocky sometimes.
Nah, man. Hey, do it. Speak on
But
it.
I handle my business. I play well. I'm a DB, so by trade, I talk trash. I get into it. I'm a Kobe Bryant fan, so I'm all about the mama mentality, having that hyper focus, having that alter ego, being able to switch from one mode to another mode. And when it comes to football, I'm hyper focused. I turn into just a killer out there. So being able to have that switch and switch that on and know when it's time to train and when it's time to take your game to another level was something that I was good at that time. And it helped propel me from being a guy that was too small and not recruited to having guys on our team that were getting recruited to big schools. And when those scouts come around and they're watching an offensive guy, somebody's going to turn on that defensive tape. So
Yeah,
eventually you turn on that tape and you start being like, who is this guy? Who is this guy? Let me see more of him. And, I just made sure that tape I put out was quality.
that's dope. It's like, how does somebody do that if they don't have it? Is it the preparation? Is it the training? Like, what do you think was the
100%.
most influential?
To me, it's all a mentality. You can train. I work with people that train hard. I work with people that do all the right things, but at the end of the day, their mental might not be right. So it all starts there. You have to have the mental ability to believe in yourself wholeheartedly, no matter when you hit those lows. But you have to really believe in yourself because it's going to happen. You're going to go from thinking you're the world's greatest player to hitting that plateau where you're like, I've had 3 bad games in a row. I don't know, my hamstrings are sore, whatever it is, and you have to push through that because the window of opportunity is so so small, and people don't realize how small that window of opportunity is. So let's say we're playing a bigger team, right? And this might be the only team we play this year that there's actually scouts on the sideline. I got to know that. I got to know that during warmups, and it's not a pressure thing as to where I'm nervous I can't perform. I have to know this might be my only opportunity for this school to see me. So that's something that you have to really be aware of. You can't pretend that doesn't exist as an athlete. You have to know that, and you have to rise to those expectations. Because if you don't, that opportunity may never ever come back. And that's why every game is important because you're here today and you're gone tomorrow, like that in the sports world. So you have to take advantage of every opportunity that you have.
My bad. Sorry, we're back. We're back. But yeah, I mean, that's a good point, and I think one of the things that I speak to my athletes about, and really the parents as well, is like people always think of being recruited, they're actually going out looking at you or trying to figure out, what you're about. But a lot of people don't realize that you can just as easily get recognized based on whoever that recruiter or who that scout is, looking at on the other side of the field. So that's dope that you say that, because that's one of the things that I don't think people know about, but I don't think they actually realize as well.
100%. I
So
think that the way recruiting works now, especially with social media, is that we have the opportunity to create our own highlights and put them on our Twitter, put them on whatever our social media platform is, and now compared to when I was coming out of high school in 2009, 2010, was we could put our highlight tape on YouTube, right? We didn't have the huddle. We didn't have the NCSA. I think we had like NCSA or whatever it's called, but it wasn't for you to put your highlight tapes in and put your academics in and all of that in one platform so all these schools could look at you. So now I feel like sometimes there's a false sense of recruiting because you can get on these platforms and a school can look at it and you see that so-and-so viewed it, so-and-so viewed it, so-and-so viewed it. So you're thinking, oh, I'm getting recruited, or these people are interested in me because they viewed it, right? And views are so much of everything now that it can give that false sense of, oh, okay, this is exposure, but is it positive exposure? Is that even a good highlight tape? Was that a good game? Was that good competition? All of that factors into it. So I know for a fact, if you're going to come see me with your own two eyes, that's completely different than whatever you saw on the screen.
that's so true. And again, you see how you measure up versus yourself versus comparing yourself to someone else.
When I can put every highlight, I can put all my highlights out there. I can put my highlights out there all day, every day, and I'll find the plays that make a highlight look good. I got something in there. Now the question becomes is when you turn on my film and you watch the whole game, do I look like the player in the highlight? You come watch me play. How do I handle myself in warmups? How do I handle myself in the game when it starts getting tough? How do I handle myself in the game when I'm doing really well? Do I finish playing hard? Do I finish every play? Like all of those things matter, and all of those things factor into having the right school recruit you and putting yourself in an opportunity to be recruited by the right school as well. And that's something I don't think a lot of athletes think of. It's just going to a school is cool, but going to the right school is important.
That's real. And that actually is a great segue to my next question. Like, obviously you went through the ranks of high school. What led to ultimately like making your decision to go to Nebraska? And like talk a little bit about those things that you were looking for, that were either pros or cons that were like, what, this is the right situation for me.
So for me at that time, I graduated early. So I graduated high school at 17 years old. So between that, like really 14 and when I left at 17-year-old age, for me, my biggest thing was always just the biggest stage. I wanted to be on the biggest stage possible because I knew for me and my body type, I needed to show that I could play at the biggest stage so that I could leave no stones unturned. I was playing college football 155, 160 pounds. I was playing in high school 130 something, 140 something pounds. I was never that 175, 180, 6'2". I was never that football build. And I knew that. So for me, I was going to go to Colorado State with my older brother. When I went to their spring game and I went on that recruiting trip, it was comfortable. I was comfortable with the coaches. I felt like their competition was solid, but I knew my skill level and I knew like, okay, well, if I get here and I continue to develop, I'm way better than everybody that's already here. I'm just not acclimated to the college football yet. And then Nebraska came into the picture because they were recruiting our big three receivers: Austin Hill, Tyler Slave, and Harold Mobley. So I was the only defensive guy that was kind of in the mix there to get recruited there. And we took a trip to Lincoln, and my whole life changed. I'd never been exposed to an atmosphere that cared about one team. I'd never been exposed to an atmosphere that cared about just winning at all costs, winning at the highest level, the national championships, the history, the entire state of Nebraska supporting Nebraska football, outer states supporting Nebraska football, game day, the longest sellout streak in the history of college football. We still have that streak to this day, and we've had some down years. It was a completely different experience. So for me, and Nebraska was always top 25 when I was getting recruited. And I knew nothing about them before I took that trip. But when I got there and I saw the tradition, I saw the academic side of it too, which people don't like to talk about when they talk about recruiting. The academic side of it, that was the first thing we did on my trip when I got there was we went straight to academics. We did academics for like 4 hours. And I was like, all right, can we do something cool? But my parents were like, they were all in. And if you don't get the parents all in, you're not really helping yourself. So my parents were all in. Then we got to the football side of it, and I was all in. So I committed on my trip. Committed on my trip. I was bought in, and from there, I want to say that was probably halfway through my senior year. From there, it was just about finishing my season strong. At the same time, staying healthy and mentally preparing myself for something that I had no idea what I was going to get myself into, which is hard to do, but like I said, fortunately for me, my father played college football. My father played professional football, so he did the best he could to make sure at least that when I stepped on campus day one, I wasn't shell shocked completely.
Yeah, and that's dope, and that's exactly why we have this podcast, because you touched on it. Like, people don't know what to expect; they don't really know what they're getting themselves into, and it's awesome and a good experience to know that, oh, I'm being sought after recruiting wise, and then I actually can get this scholarship. But like, they don't realize once you get there, it's almost like you're starting all over again.
You
You have to
are starting
relearn.
all over.
You know what I mean? You have to learn different rules, different expectations, and that's why I want to ask you. Like, talk a little bit about that expectation. Like, what was that experience like for you? First day one, training camp, you report, or first day on campus. Like, what are some of those things that you were like, oh damn, I didn't think it was gonna be like this, or this is exactly what I prepared for. Like, how did you prepare for that?
So in California, compared to other states, we graduated late. We graduated about 2 weeks after everybody else. So when I got to Lincoln, the team had already been working. They had already started their summer workouts. They're about all the freshmen were about 2.5, 3 weeks into workouts by the time I showed up day one. So I get there, check into my dorm. We got a 6 a.m. workout the next day. I get there probably like middle of the afternoon on a Friday, and we have a workout Saturday morning. There's no one's easing me into the workout. I got to do the beep test first. You got to go past the beep test before you can do anything. So I go do the beep test. I'm like, okay, it wasn't hard, but you better be in shape for the beep test.
Like, well, welcome to the squad.
Well, you better be in shape. And I was glad I'm glad I was running. I was active before I left for school, but some people didn't pass that beep test a couple times. So we get the beep test done, and then later that day we had conditioning in the middle of the afternoon. It was hot. Middle of the afternoon, we had conditioning session, and I had a full body. I had never full body cramp like that before in my life. It was hard. It was challenging. I called my dad later on that day, and I was like, "Why would you let me come here?" Like, I wasn't mentally prepared for the amount of work that would go into it. But at Nebraska, you're expected to win every year. You're expected to win. You're expected to win at a high rate. You're expected to be top 25, competing for conference championships. Hopefully you can get to a national championship. Like, that expectation is not dying in Nebraska. It's just not going to happen. So every coach knows it. Every player knows it. So it doesn't matter if you're a freshman, you're a senior. You have to be at a very, very high standard day one. And I struggled with that for about 2.5 years of college. Just the expectations on top of what I felt that I deserved, what I needed. Right. I was such an I person all the time, and that didn't mold into the team platform in college in any capacity. And there's first round draft picks in front of me. So I don't know who I thought I was, entitled to something that I had to work for. So I can't say that I was prepared in the aspect of understanding what was going to happen, but mentally, I was prepared for the up and downs. I was prepared for when I hit rock bottom to not just roll over and just be like, no, that's it. I'm not going to make it. Because that's college. Unless you just come in and you're a freshman phenom and it continues, you have growing pains. You got to adjust to every part of it, the school part, the film part, more than anything. Film is at a higher level. Everybody watches film. It's important. You need to watch the film to progress as a player. And when you're not watching film, it's clear as day that you're not getting that done, because you're not picking up on those little mistakes. You're making the same mistakes over and over. So that was such a hurdle for me, because we watched film in high school, but not to the point of understanding cues, understanding formations, understanding what we're getting and all of that. So that transition was difficult, but you have to lock in as an athlete. If you say you really want something, you have to really lock in and be all about it. You can't only like the things that you like.
Yeah, that's real. And like, so going through that process, what was the catalyst, right? That transition to you to having that tough experience to be able to kind of excel I'm assuming most of the time that was probably going to be around like that transition from your sophomore to your junior year. Like, what was that catalyst that kind of propelled you to ultimately be able to get into the NFL?
The biggest thing, the biggest thing, sorry, I hate when, there we go. The biggest thing for me was having like the mentorship from the older guys on the team. That's what helped me more than anything. Having those older guys put their arm around you and show you their routine, show you how they watch film, show you what coaches are expecting from you, and guys, that are going to that next level, the guys that you're looking up to, because you can have some of that leadership, quote unquote, that doesn't help the younger guys, the out for me guys. So you kind of have to find your way through that and find out who's really helping you, who's genuine and all that good stuff. So for me, fortunately, I had good mentorship. I had good teammates. I had good guys that I started surrounding myself with when I started hitting my junior year, and guys that were serious about where they were trying to go. The school part was easy for us at a certain point. Then it became like, am I really trying to make it to the NFL? Not do I think I can make it to the NFL and that it sounds good, but am I really trying to make it to the NFL? So my film study jumped like tremendously from my sophomore to my junior year. I'm really on my huddle every day watching the film. I'm not just watching where the ball goes. Now I'm watching third down formations. I'm watching where the receiver lines up on his best plays. Is he +2 on top of the numbers? Is he -1 on bottom of the numbers? And that IQ part, because that athleticism part it's done for at that point. Everybody's a good athlete. Now the IQ is going to kick in. So unless you're just that freakazoid athlete out there that's 6'5", running 4'3", your IQ level better jump through the roof, because those guys are out there that have all those attributes and they have the IQ. So you're at a double loss there. So that was the biggest jump going into like what I would call the money year, your junior year of school, was actually carrying myself not like a college kid or a high school kid anymore, but trying to carry myself like a professional, in whatever sense that meant to me from the guys that taught me how to do it.
That's dope. And you're right. I call it the 1%, right? There's the 1% that's like you said, the freak athletes where they can just do things without trying and they're just on point. But for everyone else, if you're serious about it, like you're going to get into that weight room. You're going to make sure you're doing what you need to do in the classroom. You're going to make sure that you're watching film or asking the right questions. And if not, you're networking and finding the right people within that network to make sure that you can set yourself up for success. Because I think to your point, like that's the biggest thing to where you can tell if people are really serious about it and they're going to be successful or they're not. And you get cut in that tough spot to where you're academically ineligible or you get bumped from that starter to that second string to that third string. So like, that's where, the rubber meets the road, where you got to really start to put in that work.
Yeah, you have to really look in the mirror though, and you have to be honest with yourself. And you have to take the corrective criticism that's coming to you from your coaches as well, and not be like, well, I don't like coach. What are they giving me? Why are they giving me this? Because it's important for my development. And I might not like it, but I need to hear it. Whether it's like for me, I just never hit that number on the scale, right? So it wasn't always, well, you have to put on weight. It was, you have to get stronger. You have to get stronger. So if you got it, like, you have to be in the weight room. You have to be serious in the weight room. Your IQ needs to go up, because since you're not the biggest and the fastest guy out here, you better know where you're going. You better know where the ball is going to go so you can get there before that pulling guard comes and he's 300 pounds. All those little intricate details, and that's the part that I try to get through to my athletes the most, is that those little details have to be precise. So if we're on this ladder and you can't do the little things on the ladder, don't expect to progress to the drills you see on Instagram that you think are fun. We have to master the little things first. You get comfortable mastering the little things first. The next level starts to get easier, because that's all it's about. It's no longer about the big things, because you've knocked down all those hurdles already. It's about who's good at all the little stuff that's tedious, it's boring, you don't want to do it, but it's essential to your game.
Yeah, that's spot on. And I was just talking with one of my athletes about that. It's like the only difference between, or the main difference, I should say, between, that collegiate level and the professional level is how efficient you are at doing the little things, right? And accurate. Like that's the biggest difference between the pros. And it's just the consistency that you're able to do that. So that's spot on. And I think that translates across any sport. It doesn't matter what sport you're playing.
Right? Because like now you get to the professionals, right? You're going to have guys, you're going to have the old heads in the league. Then you get the rookies coming in with the young blood, the fresh blood, the legs that are fast. And it's like, how is he getting there faster than him when we know he's slower than him? They know where they're going. They know where the ball's going. They know how the play's set up. They know their way around the field, right? They just like they understand the flow of the game at a completely different level. So they process it faster, and in processing it faster, everything slows down. And that's the jump from college to the pros right there. And if you don't catch it, it gets real rocky real fast.
Real fast. So if you're in some of these young athletes' shoes, and obviously you're working with them on a daily, like what are some of the things that you're coaching them up or instilling them to kind of put them on that path to get recruited to make it to that college that they're looking for? Like what are some things that you're coaching or even suggest or recommend?
So like the main thing I'm telling like my DB specifically, like I have in my unit, I got how many seniors do I have from you right now? I got five seniors, right? All of them want to play college football. One of them has an offer from Hawaii. So my biggest thing that I'm preaching to them is we got to come out the game like the gate hot. Those first three games, they matter. Like it's recruiting season. You don't have till we get to the end of the season and be like, okay, now I'm playing well. You don't have that time to get 3, 4, 5 games into the season and be like, okay, now I caught my groove. You got to catch your groove game one. Game one, game two, game three, you gotta have some games because then you gotta like I gotta see in the newspaper that you had three interceptions and one for a touchdown and a 75-yard punt return. And it doesn't have to be the craziest stats in the world, but like I gotta see something. I gotta see something. Especially if we're talking, certain levels that every athlete wants to go to that crazy level, right? So I'm like, okay, let's be real then. I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything for you. You say you want to be Power Five, you want to be Division One. This is what needs to happen then. So when we get to the end, the season part, and we're getting into the games, my biggest thing is practice. Your practice habits. Don't expect to go out there in the game and ball out when you practice like trash all week. It's not gonna happen. You have to have a great practice. You have to be so prepared and so locked in and so mentally ready to play that what I like to say is the most prepared athlete will be the best athlete. It's just a fact. So if you're the most prepared when you go out there, like there's no nerves. The only nerves you have is just more so it's game one. But when I'm prepared, everything starts coming easy. Everything starts coming real easy, and then you have fun. And when I can have fun because I'm prepared, it gets dangerous. I'm not playing off nerves anymore. I'm not playing off of just adrenaline and excitement. I'm playing off of the fact that I feel like it's easy. And now it's getting really fun because I can do what I want to do on the field. And when I'm in that mode of being, I'm like, oh, I can control this. I know exactly I'm going to make you do exactly what I want you to do. Now we're playing chess the right way. So my biggest thing to my athletes is like your practice habits have to be elite.
Yeah, that's dope. That's a good nugget to kind of hold on to. So just kind of want to start wrapping it up, but taking a look back over your career, and that's high school, college, and even pro, like if you were to change anything, what would be the one thing that you would change or maybe do differently, kind of looking back over everything?
The way I took care of my body, um, I would have taken care of if I knew what I know now, I would have taken care of my body completely differently. Even at a young age, what I ate, what I chose to do in my on my off days, my routine of recovery. Do I ice bath? Do I stretch? Do I contrast? Do I do yoga? Do I do acupuncture? All of those things that we had offered to us at I wish I would have taken better advantage of all the things that were offered to us in Nebraska. As far as, our training staff, our sports medicine, all of that, I wish I would have taken better advantage of it and prepared myself more so then maybe I could have avoided an injury or two. Who knows? But I do know that your body is your money when you're playing sports. So if you're not going to take care of your body properly, then you're not gonna LeBron James. LeBron James. The man takes care of his body, and it's not surprising that he's doing what he's doing at the level he's doing it in this long in his career. So that's the one thing that I would have done differently. That's the one thing I preach to all my athletes is to learn how to take care of your body. And if you don't know, ask. The information's out there. We got the internet. We have YouTube. We have all of these athletes on all these platforms giving us information for free. So take advantage of it and be serious about it.
That's real. That's great, man. So thanks for really obviously taking the time. This is great information. I really appreciate you hopping on.
Of
Real
course.
quick before we go, talk a little bit about what you guys have going on with Gut Check and let everyone know how they can reach you, how they can get in contact with you. Obviously, if you have any questions or if they want to kind of get in with some training sessions you guys have.
Yes, sir. So I am the owner of Gut Check. What we do is we train athletes to reach the next level, is what I like to say. Speed, agility, strength and conditioning, all of that foundational little things that I think all athletes need, all sports, whatever it is. That's what we do. And specifically what I specialize in, I would say, is I work with DBs in football. I was a DB, so that's what I know, like the back of my hand. So that's something that I put my heart and soul into when it comes to this business, and it's my mission to help all of my athletes reach that next level that they want to get to, whether that's playing on varsity or getting an opportunity to play in college, or my college athletes trying to get an opportunity to play in the professional league. So you can find me on Instagram at GutCheckUSA. You can find my website, gutcheckus.com, gutcheckus.com. All my information's on there, my training packages. We're all rounded. We're all around. It's a family environment. I'm not a big conglomerate. I like to keep it more smaller and more competitive, small group stuff, because I feel like the more athletes that we have that can feed off of each other, the better we all can get.
That's dope, man. Appreciate it. So, again, that wraps our last episode, our latest episode. But again, I want to thank you again for taking the time and looking forward to collaborating and connecting with you in the future, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So until next time, we'll catch you guys on the next episode. See ya.